or within that same year, they're going to be defeated. I want to raise their activation in a good way as well. So then I say, but everybody can pass the test and nobody has to cheat. In fact, you can't cheat because the test is all about what's happening inside. And I'm going to give you the questions I'm going to ask now so you know what to look for inside of yourself. So at the end, I gave them this little tiny post-it, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's only 4 questions. And each person's going to have different answers. And as long as you answer the 4 questions, doesn't matter how you answer them, as long as you put an answer down, you all get an A. So immediately all the kids are excited, curious, and it's like, whew. So their nervous system is activated and then it's deactivated, but deactivated, it's raised enough to get the motivation system, the reticular activating system in the brain excited so that they can be at their optimum peak for learning. And then I take them into a focus time or a meditation. It's embodied and help them track the sensations of their breathing. So these things can be done several times a day in the classroom. And I think it's better if the whole school does it. And I was inspired when I was a new teacher. I taught third, fourth grade combination back in the 70s. And we had in Long Beach Unified, we had a system-wide program called SSR. It's not SSRI. It was like the serotonin uptake inhibitor. It was sustained silent reading. And I think they were doing it across the country in different places. And our school district adopted it, and it was great. Every day, the principal would come on the PA and say, it's time for sustained silent reading. And everyone, from the custodian to the librarian, didn't matter what job you were doing, everyone stopped and they read for 10 minutes. And you could hear a pin drop. I mean, it was so quiet. And the day before, the teachers would get to take their kids to the library, the school library, and pick out what they wanted. And if they didn't like anything there, they could bring something. They could bring a comic book in. They could bring anything they wanted. It was up to them, their choice. And this is the thing with kids with trauma. They don't have choice. So when you give them choice and say, you could pick anything you want, and it doesn't even have to be from the library. It could be, with older kids, sometimes it was Popular Mechanics. It was a mechanics magazine. Sometimes it was Donald Duck, with the younger kids. So everyone read for 10 minutes. And then the bell rang and you went back to the regular activities. And this was done every single day for like a year. So I did some research on it, and I found out that the reason some schools dropped it is it didn't substantially improve reading grades. But what it did do was it made kids feel better about their school and a sense of belonging because they were all doing it together. So everything in the schools is so based on academic performance. And that to me is not the barometer of a healthy society. You're never going to get all the kids to get A's, and you're never going to get all the kids at the same intellectual level or interest level. But what you can do is help each kid to be their best self and to feel cooperative and want to cooperate because they feel a sense of belonging. So I felt like the results were positive. I mean, there weren't any negative consequences. So I thought, why not do this with my colleague from Texas, Chris Downing, from Communities and Schools in Texas? Why not get the same procedure in the schools where the teachers already have the posters on the wall with the grounding exercise, pausing and grounding? Why not stop and have the whole school do it? Ring the bell, and now it's 10 minutes or even 5 minutes to go inside, to check, to settle down, and to come back out and to look around and be ready for learning. So it's one way, pausing and checking to see what's going on inside. It may seem like not a big deal, but it actually has a profound effect on relaxing the nervous system, because what we observe changes. And most people, and especially kids in the classroom, going from whether it's high school or junior high, where they're going from one subject to another, they could barely make it to class on time. They have a short lunch break. They don't really have time to play and eat. Teachers, they have to use their break time sometimes to monitor the playground. I remember when I was a fourth grade teacher always being terrified when I had my menstrual cycle because I didn't have time to change my Tampax when I had yard duty, you know? So there's a lot of high stress, let alone taking time for yourself to notice that you're stressed, right? And the way that stress discharges, and stress and trauma are related. Um, some kids have accumulated stress. And what happens is the nervous system can't relax and come into its optimal state without stopping and and noticing what's happening. And a lot of the kids that are traumatized don't even get a good night's sleep for multiple reasons. Sometimes in my where I worked, it was gunshots going off in the neighborhood. It could be they were sleeping in the living room and their parents were watching TV. They didn't even have their own bed. There's lots of different reasons why kids don't sleep at night. Sometimes they go to bed hungry and they can't sleep because they have hunger pangs. But when they don't sleep, they're not even getting rest that they're not observing. They're not getting normal rest. So these are the things that break the cycles of nervous system dysfunction. So those are simple things that I don't think any principal would object to. The little post-it with tracking your breathing to come down to a optimized place for learning, or taking time to ground. Those are easy ways to start a little bit infiltrating. But if you want to get really, really sophisticated, you can use some of the games. And one of the games that's my favorite, I just did it in Istanbul and in Belgium and in Germany, and it's one of the favorite games, and is to break the kids up into small groups, like maybe at 10 the most, and you have to have a teacher or a volunteer adult in each of the groups, and you play a simple beach ball game, but cooperative, where beach balls, they don't hurt, and they have to go underhanded, and the object is that the group keeps the ball from falling on the ground and doesn't hit the ceiling. We just we just broke a crystal chandelier in Istanbul in the Ramada Inn. It's been the thing I've been afraid of my entire time teaching these. I've been teaching this stuff for 18 years, right? And it's the first time it ever happened. And I was afraid it was going to happen. And they got the wrong beach balls. They got these little hard ones that were compressed, that were not as lightweight. And one of the groups, sure enough, they broke the light in the ceiling, but at least it wasn't the $5,000 projector. And the Ramada Inn seemed to forgive them because they paid a lot of money for the space. So it didn't break it completely. It just broke a couple of the little hanging things off. But it was like my worst nightmare came. Okay. So, but in the classroom, you could take the kids outside. Usually I take people outside if it's not windy or rainy, and they're just doing beach ball toss, as simple as that. And the teacher blows a whistle when she sees the kids getting a little bit too rowdy or whatever, and stops. And we put the beach ball down and everybody checks to see what's happening inside. I call it taking the internal weather report, and how they're feeling. And usually in a group of I usually have 50 people in my training, so there might be 5 groups of 10. There's usually 1 or 2 people that have a freeze response. They have either been hit with a ball in elementary school, like they dodgeball or something, or hit with a softball, or else they had sibling rivalry where they didn't get to have the ball and they just zoned out. But a lot of people are don't want to stop the game. They're a little hyperactive, right? And they want to keep the game going. They didn't have enough. And so all these different patterns show up. And some of them just are excited and happy, and others were afraid that that they were going to be hit. and you see the patterns of how they protect themselves. And so a lot can get stirred up, especially if they had physical violence at home, if they were children that were physically abused. But I always give certain rules to start to keep kids safe, and that's you don't have to play. You can stand out. You're part of the group. You belong to, and we call the groups by different names, like the lions, the tigers, the grizzly bears, whatever, and the hyenas. And you stay with your group, but you can watch and observe the group, and then you can share what you noticed about how self-protective responses, for instance, because in SE, what we learn is to release the self-protective responses that never completed because the person was attacked and didn't get a chance to finish the self-protective response. And so they never got to discharge the energy from that, right? So that's why sometimes a person will duck even when there's no reason to duck, because someone triggers the impulse to duck to protect themselves, that type of thing, right? So do you want to, you can stop me anytime because I'm like a wind up toy. And until my batteries go or batteries die, I could go on forever because I'm old, so I've had a lot of experience, a
Well,
lot of.
and I mean, trauma-informed care, SE, mind and body, holistic healing, it's, you can't explain it and talk about it in 30 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours. Like, I asked my mom for a 1 minute clip about something. She sent me like a 10-minute clip.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's passion and it's like wanting to make a difference.
So when you think about incomplete responses with kids, you don't necessarily have to sit them down and have a one-on-one session in the play and say, I felt like I got scared, but I always let them know they can step out anytime before the whistle blows. They don't.
uh,
Did she freeze on you too?
yeah.
If you change your mind and you see that it's really safe and everybody's having fun and you're not, you can step back in. It's you belong to that group and you have choices within that group of what suits you. And even when I work with students that are in a wheelchair, like I've had therapists that have had muscular dystrophy or whatever, or have an injury, or sometimes include them and have a slower down where they can actually participate and throw the ball from the wheelchair. So I make sure everybody's included. Then at the end, after everybody gets a turn to they discharge activation. A lot of them are trembling from the excitement and from all these are self-protective responses, right? To not get the ball, get hit by the ball, but instead to catch it. And so there's a lot of feelings of activation, but in a pleasurable way, what we call sympathetic activation. And then they get to feel their heart rate coming down, going from sympathetic activation, not associated with danger, but associated with pleasure, and then actually coming down into what I call the green zone, where they feel grounded again, right? And then they have more alertness and awareness. And when they do the second round, they're going to be even more embodied because they've had a chance to play, to feel what their body did, to feel how their body responded, to share what came up for them. And then we do another round. And then at the end, the last round I do is a different game. It's a social engagement game, and the kids have to memorize everybody's name. If it's classmates and they know their names, they don't need to wear name tags. But if they don't know it's at the beginning of a school year, the kids wear a name tag. And then you play a game where you actually look and make eye contact, which are one of the 8 essentials for attachment. So in the new book, the first book didn't have anything really about attachment. The new book has all the neuroscience about attachment, and what it takes is eye contact, calling the other person's name and asking them if they're ready. And then the other child says yes, and they have to make eye contact and call the person's name who's throwing the ball, the thrower, and say their name. Yes, yes, Una, I'm ready. And then they throw the ball. and every child gets one chance. So the next person has to memorize, and they have to memorize who got the ball and who didn't, right? To make sure everybody gets a turn.